you have been to Israel before, it is dramatically different than you knew it the first time you came, even if it was just a couple of years ago. Every time I come about every other month, and it seems like it changes every time I come. That's how much more they're opening up or revealing or discovering. It's very common, very frequent. There's a lot of turnover in the city of David. So the city of David is the oldest part of Jerusalem. So I know you're going to hear a lot of these names and phrases flying around. The city of David is the ancient Jerusalem that David conquered. That's why they call it the city of David. It's the oldest part. The old city is not that ancient. It was built in the 16th century by Suleiman the Magnificent. Remember, so going up the hill, that's the old city with the walls around it. That's not Bible era old city. Okay, it's just called the old city. Solomon's city, when Solomon expanded up from David's city, he came further up the mountain towards where the Temple Mount area is now. So you see how basically Jerusalem just kept climbing the mountain. It kept going up and up and up and up from the original spot that it was on. So you know those names flying around, that's what they mean. So in the city of David, you're going to go to the oldest part of Jerusalem. This is where Joab and the commando team of mighty men snuck in through the Zinor. We don't really know what that word actually means. It's just that's the Hebrew word for like pipe. And so we think water shaft or pipe or irrigation pipe, something like that happened. David said, if you're going to capture the city, you have to go in through the Zinor. And so Joab stands up, I'll do this. And David says, great. Whoever does this will get to be chief and captain of the army. Because you can't order men to do that kind of mission. It's complete, pure suicide. I mean, you just can't do it. What he's asking them to do is to, hey, go crawl in that tunnel over there. It's going to be filled with water. It might be 1,000 meters long. And you're going to have to hope there's a breath to take every few strokes in this pitch dark tunnel that's about as wide as your seat. So that's the raid that Joab and those guys go on. They have to go in through this tunnel, crawl up through the water system. And they've recently excavated where it's plausible. In fact, one guy's opinion, I think it's actually highly likely that what they've recently unearthed at the site of the spring is a passageway. This is relatively recent. I think we can now piece together the entire route that Joab and the men went through. We don't know where the exit or the entrance from the valley, that's lost to centuries. But inside the mountain itself, the tunnel they would have gone through and then emerged from at the spring, the Gihon spring, it can be traced pretty well right now. So you'll get to see that route. It's pretty exciting. And then down, of course, in there is where the spring where Solomon was anointed king. There's a lot of biblical history. This is the old part of Jerusalem you'll see in there. And all that to say, it's worth everything you can do to get in there. It is an unmitigated nightmare logistically to get a group of people into the city of David to do that stuff. There's no way around it. This is not just crazy last minute planning. I mean, this is very narrow streets. It's usually very crowded. There's a lot going on. Honking horns and one-lane streets, and so you've got to get into the city of David, single file like ducklings. Get in there. The staging areas are small, and at the end of the tour of the city of David itself is the wet tunnel. Okay, so everybody say wet tunnel. Everybody say dry tunnel. Now say, if I don't want to get wet, I will go in the dry tunnel. Like, stop patronizing me. No, it's there's two tunnels that are in there. Okay, you're going to enter the city of David. You're going to have a chance to go down, and it's all dry tunnel, like what we did in the water shaft at Megiddo. Okay, so it's all dry tunnel going in there. It's a lot like that actually, and you're going to explore the corridors and the passageways, and it's really incredible to be in there and seeing the remains of the old Jebusite city. Remember, you've got layers of centuries above you, so you're in a tunnel looking at the dig going on. So you'll be in there, and at the end of the dry tunnel is the wet tunnel. You do not have to go in the wet tunnel. The wet tunnel's name is Hezekiah Tunnel. So that is the famous tunnel that you hear about, or wrote about on the itinerary, where the Gihon spring is still flowing through it up to about between your ankles and mid-thigh on me. At the very beginning it's about mid-thigh, but just about 20 meters or so through it, and then it drops off to below my knees. But what that tunnel was dug by King Hezekiah's men, and it's described in the Bible when the Assyrians are, the Sennacherib, the Assyrians are besieging Jerusalem. They wanted to divert the water source, the Gihon spring, from outside into the city. So these guys start blindly digging this tunnel through bedrock. Hey, you guys start there, we'll start over here on opposite sides of the mountain, and they just chink, chink, chink all the way through the mountain with their chisels to try and meet. And you see this serpentine pattern where they finally eventually meet each other and join the tunnel. And so the Bible talks about this being done. It says Hezekiah did this and he diverted the spring, and so it's explicitly mentioned in the Bible. And in the 20th century, a little kid in the valley, an Arab kid, is out there playing with his friends, I think, and he finds the entrance of it. Yeah, and he walks in the entrance of this tunnel. Hey, cool, a tunnel. Walks in, disappears, no one knows where he goes, and he emerges, 30 minutes later, an hour later, inside the city. They're like, how did that just happen? And he found some secret corridor. Well, they go in there and they find this tunnel that was found, or was dug by Hezekiah's men, and there's an inscription that literally says something to the equivalent of dug by Hezekiah's men. It's labeled. So this is one of those sites in the Bible where we can know with categorical 100% certainty that is what the Bible's talking about to the millimeter. That is the spot. It's the only thing it could possibly be. And it's even signed by the author. What more do you want? So you go through that tunnel, and it just gives me goosebumps every time thinking about it. The spring is flowing through your feet as you walk. It's been flowing through that tunnel for thousands of years, ever since Hezekiah's men dug it. So you're going on the exact path that spring going through that tunnel did for all that time. So it's an exciting adventure. It is 100% not for people who are claustrophobic, I promise you. And what I do find out is every trip we discover people who didn't know they were claustrophobic. Once they get into that tunnel, we get to diagnose them with that. Okay, just the wet tunnel, it is, so you're going to go all the way down the dry tunnel. The dry tunnel's nice and wide, staircase, railing, it's easy to go. It's short, yep, very short. At the end of the dry tunnel, you're going to divert and exit the dry tunnel and go outside and see more of the City of David Archaeological Park. Nehemiah's Wall, for example. You can see a stretch of Nehemiah's Wall, things like that. The people going through the wet tunnel, you'll get to see some of that too, but you're going to continue into the tunnel. If you have an adventurous spirit, this is one of the top things to do when you come here. It really is for the tourist attractions, to get to walk through Hezekiah's tunnel, see the chisel marks on the wall of the guys and their hammers and chisels, and it's really extraordinary. Go through the tunnel. How big is the tunnel? How narrow? What are we talking about here, Cliff? Is the tunnel lit? The answer is the tunnel is not lit. It is completely pitch dark in there. So you need to have your headlamp or small flashlight. I believe that was on the packing list when you guys got that. So if you have a little key lamp or a headlamp, something like that, you're going to want to bring that tomorrow. And they can, yeah, you can buy them too. They have little cheapo flashlights in the City of David too if you don't have one. But it's also, not every single person needs one. You're all stacked up on each other as you go in there, like a conga line, and all the headlamps are going to be able to illuminate it. How big is it? I'm a pretty big guy. I feel constricted for probably maybe half the tunnel, where you walk like this, if you're me, and kind of hunch over like Quasimodo, and I shuffle through like this. So it's about as wide, I tell people, it's about as wide as this aisle is in some parts, and it's about this high, down to about this high at the beginning. It's not the entire duration of the tunnel. It's mainly the first third to half of the tunnel is what that starts to shape up like. Okay, so for me, I do most of the tunnel in this kind of half-hunched Igor position, all right, and watching my head, not my head on the walls, and scrape my elbows in the walls, and so it's a little bit narrow at first. The water starts out deeper, goes up to about my thighs, okay, but it's very short that it's that deep. So like I said, maybe 15, 20 meters totally. You're going to walk through with the water about right there, and then it's going to drop down below your knees, and then it's kind of ankle length. So the water itself is not this torrent of flood that you have to swim through or anything like that. It's just that your feet do get wet. I always wear long pants all the time in Jerusalem. Even if they get wet, I keep them on. So I wear my quick dry pants in the tunnel. They get wet on a hot day like it's going to be tomorrow. They're going to be dry in 20, 30 minutes when I get out of that tunnel. So I just leave my pants on. I don't worry about changing into shorts and all of that. This is a time to bring your water shoes. Yep, absolutely right. You guys saw that coming a mile away. I should have hidden that better. This is definitely a time to bring your water shoes. what I do is I bring the water shoes with me, or my sandals, or whatever I have. I take my regular shoes off, my hiking boots, whatever I'm wearing, and I string them over my neck. I take the laces and I just hang them over my neck like that, and then put the water shoes on, keep my pants on, and then go through the tunnel. On the other side of the tunnel, I take the water shoes off, dry off my feet a little bit, put my regular shoes back on, and then I just kind of tie my wet shoes to the outside of my pack. That's my system. That's what I do each time I do it. So the first question that's going to come up is, are there changing rooms? Not really. So this is part of the stress of this place. There are restrooms up in the city of David that you can change and get things moved around in, but when you're down in the tunnels, there aren't rooms to change. Yeah. What? Yeah. Oh, restrooms. I can ask you. Do we have anyone that needs to use the restroom right now? About another probably 45 minutes or so to Jerusalem. Are we okay? Les? Okay. Also, you guys can, you want to run in quick and see if you can find that that's closed? Just let him run there quick. Hey John, if you guys want to run there, just quick look and see if it's in this place. Yeah. Just a quick little stopover. Just don't have two people.